Hey there, welcome back to my channel. This time I'm going to be talking about my third game during the WTC in October in Germany. I was playing Dread Elves. I was facing off against Undying Dynasties. Once again, this is my list, so it's quite heavily focused on the Temple Militants, on the interaction with the Divine Altar, Effigy of Dread, Warlock Outcast, Master on Evocation, and then basically the rest is just supporting mostly that. My opponent was Shino, playing Undying Dynasties of Team Poland, one of the Polish teams at least. He was having the following list, so it's basically quite a balanced list, I would say. Not that much shooting that I was quite happy about, and the infamous Necropolis Guard block that a lot of people fear. In addition, the Cataphracts can be quite tough, the Dread Sphinx can be quite tough. I would say that the Scarab Swarms are tougher than they look on paper, but we will see about that in the battle. So unfortunately, I already have to warn you that I don't have that many pictures of this game, but we do play Dawn Assault, Capture the Flags, and as you can see, well, this is the deployment that we ended up with, and this is already after halfway my opponent's turn 1 movement. So it was quite funny. We didn't really, I think my opponent realized that we played Dawn Assault, and at the time I was deploying, I didn't really realize it. So we were starting the game, and I had just deployed all the way on the left. We were ready for the first turn, and then my opponent was like, "Wait, we are playing Dawn Assault." So probably something went wrong there. That was a mistake on my part. I honestly really forgot, and well, that shouldn't have happened, but it did. We quickly redeployed. I must say, my opponent and me, we took it quite casually in that sense that we were quite quick with our decisions generally, which was really nice to play against. And also my opponent has the same feeling. Like also my redeployment, basically I just deployed everything and then I redeployed in 5 minutes tops. So that was quite okay, I would say. One thing my opponent didn't spot is that the Black Cloaks actually have poison, so the Necro Sphinx or the Battle Sphinx very enthusiastically came to me on the flank, and I was like, I thought you realized that they have poison and that I have a hunting chariot over there that I can just whittle you down over the turns, basically. Otherwise, deployment-wise, he has most of his army next to the building over here. There's an altar in the back. The Necropolis Knights, I think they're called still, just advance quite casually. And yeah, at this point of the battle, I'm quite confident about the matchup. It's mostly combat focused, which I like with Dread Elves. I think the militants, they will grind out any of these units, his infantry units. His cavalry or his chariot unit is not really something that I'm afraid of. And the Necropolis Knights I'm not that afraid of, mostly with my lone character. So if I can stall him with my lone character, lock him up, charge him, doesn't really matter. If the militants go into the Necropolis guys and I get to strike first with a buff on them, I probably will just crumble the unit, is my expectation. So this was my deployment, this was my opponent's turn 1 movement. Then we go to the Dread Elf turn 1. So this is how I move up. I actually am quite, this has to be Undying Dynasty's turn 2 already, because my opponent has moved around a little bit. Anyways, so we had Dread Elf's turn 1 where I just move up. Yeah, I do have a charge with the Raptor Chariot onto the Scarab Swarms, which I make. I was like, well, I mean, it's a bit of a long charge. It was like an 11 or something, but I can do quite some damage. And then I can basically open up my opponent for some charges. I could have advanced more with the militants. I'm a bit confused about this picture because I think maybe I just took it after having declared charges and just having moved to Leviathan, because it seems like the rest still has to move up a bit. Then again, in his turn at the start of my shooting phase, there was still a Battle Sphinx here. You can see that it's gone now. I got quite lucky with the poison rolls on the Black Cloaks. So they already dealt like 4 wounds because they had 3 poison, and I did 1 wound with their just non-poison shooting. Then the hunting chariot finished off the battle sphinx. And that was the end of the sphinx. So I did position my Mist Leviathan here quite aggressively, ready for a charge by my opponent. I don't think he charged in, which probably is the good call. I think it's after his magic phase actually. So yeah, so I don't know why I didn't move up more aggressively here, because I definitely could have. My opponent was focusing quite heavily on my Thunderpack. You can see that there's nothing here anymore. First turn of the game, he cast an Erring Strike, and that was quite successful. And then second turn, he basically just finished them off. I think through a panic check that I failed, and then I just ran off the table. So that was a bit unlucky on my side, I don't know. I mean, if my opponent fully focuses on the Thunderpack to just remove them from the game, it's also quite fair that he gets some revenue out of that. A bit later in the game, I have marked it as UD turn 2, but this is going to be UD turn 3, because, well, my Mist Leviathan moved up again to chaff up these blokes. Then, obviously, afterwards, my opponent's turn. He had the first turn, so this is going to be UD turn 3, actually. So he does charge in with some stuff at this point. He does charge in on my Mist Leviathan with his chariots. I think I underestimated the chariots. I gave them a token to remove their swift stride, so they were at like a 16-inch charge on an 8, I think. I thought, well, if I let you go through the ruins, then you will suffer quite some damage, probably. I will be able to just hang out with my Mist Leviathan, do some damage, and then we will just get stuck there. I can counter charge, and then that'll be the end of it. So I was not that convinced that my opponent would take this charge, but I could have made it a little bit longer. I also tried to use my Mist Leviathan to block my opponent from going into my hunting chariot. Meanwhile, the raptor chariot and the swarms are still dishing it out. My opponent also makes a charge with his big block of skeletons with the Pharaoh onto my militants, and he does charge in with the Necropolis Knights onto the rear of my Mist Leviathan, with me ready for the counter charge, basically. So yeah, I really like the Mist Leviathans in terms of drawing out your opponent, because you are still threatening them with a bit of a solid piece, like compared to Shadow Riders. Shadow Riders can't really charge that well, and if they charge something like Necropolis Guard, it's gonna be, or Knights, it's gonna be disastrous. Mist Leviathan, he can just chill here, and then my opponent has to do something, or I'm gonna fly over or go hunt for his altar thing, or I just go anywhere else and go into the back lines, ready to hunt his wizards, which is something that the Shadow Riders definitely can't do. So my opponent will go in, I will flee in the end, and this Mist Leviathan is going to be gone. In this instance, he does make the charge. I don't know, I just have to see what the next picture is. Yeah, I think it's this one. So there was a funny situation here. So my opponent's Pharaoh is over here. He charged in, he makes a charge. And once I looked back at the game, I was like, in the first round of combat, he was attacking my BSB with his Pharaoh, which is kind of weird, I would say, because Make Way doesn't allow you to do that. Pharaoh is clearly in this position in this point of the game, so I don't know how this happened, but the Pharaoh, once we started combat, was on the corner of the unit, ready to dish out on my BSB. Didn't really matter that much though, because I had plenty of counter charges. So as you can see, I countercharged with the Manticore and the Raptor on the hunting chariot onto the chariots that managed to beat my Mist Leviathan, break it, did not pursue. I don't remember why, but I think my opponent thought he needed them to deal with the militants. The militants ground down the skeletons quite heavily, but in the end the militants still pulled through. And then here we just completely obliterated the Necropolis Guard Knights. So I just sent in the Raptor Chariot, the Dread Prince, and I believe also the Hunting Chariot. And then this was the board state. I think this is actually the last picture that I took of this game. So my BSB is gone, my Pharaoh of my opponent is still there. He got a buttload of magic on there. And I only have Glory of Gold, I believe. But on the other hand, I am striking with 2 attacks per model. So I'm like 8 wide, so that's 16, 17, 8, 19 attacks, champion 20. 20 attacks, battle focus, 2+2 hit, and 2+2 wound, with a reroll to wound, with a 6-up armor save left for my opponent. This is just ideal for these militants. I mean, I'm not even having that much militants left, but they will just grind through. Otherwise, the rest of the battle sees these militants still match up against the Necropolis Guard, whittling them down. But my opponent was quite good at delaying my forces, so in the end I did manage to get, I think it was Raptor Chariot, into the bunker, the mage bunker. Shade State still mopped up the altar over here, or I don't remember the name. But they got caught by the Tomb Powerbringer on the steed. That finished off the Black Cloaks. And otherwise, yeah, the Necropolis Guard was down, the Skeletons were down, the Pharaoh went down, I believe, after. The Pharaoh kept on fighting, got to the Beastbreaker, so he actually did mop up my militants with the Pharaoh just alone. But then with the counter charge of the Manticore and some other stuff, the Pharaoh also got cleaned up. In the end, it turned into a 13-7 for the Dread Elves. So objective-wise, I still have to remember capture the flags. Yeah, I did win that one. My opponent did have a unit of militants, did have my BSB, did have the Mist Leviathans, maybe both. Hunting Chariot, Raptor Chariot, and I had the Necropolis Guard Knights. It feels a bit like it should have been a higher one even. Necropolis Knights, the Necro Guard might have survived. It's already quite a long time ago since we did this battle, so I should have recorded this earlier. And also I should have taken more pictures, but it's the 3rd game of the day. I don't know, for all my viewers, if you've been to the WTC, I don't know how energetic you have been at the 3rd game of the day, but my energy definitely goes down. And yeah, it was nice to just play a relaxed game, quite enjoyable. And I would happily play my opponent again. So with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you then next time.